Well, I got my luggage in the boot, soon I'll be freewheeling, heading down that road to a county in the west. I'm all alive, and to tell the truth, I've got this.
Hello, and we're back again for the third podcast in the Ros4Sam podcast series. First two episodes very well received by the general public from the feedback we've got. And I'm joined here. My name is Ronan Carley. I'm joined by Farrell and Delaney. Padraig, a Longford man, Pierce, a Meath man, and myself, Ronan Carley, from Kilbride parish in Roscommon. So, I was at the Kildare game last Sunday. We'll go straight into the Kildare game. I was at it last Sunday with John Coughlin, and John hadn't been at a Roscommon game in quite some time, I think it's fair to say, but he enjoyed the day out anyway, and we had a good time of it at the game. A great win for Roscommon. They went to Newbridge, maybe not, knowing that relegation was a possibility if they were to lose, and Kildare very much facing into the possibility of relegation now that they lost that actual match. The Roscommon team on the day lined out as follows: Colm Lavin in goal, Mark Richardson, he was number 4, but this is how they lined out: Mark Richardson, Conor Daly, David Murray. Half-back line, Brian Stack, Niall Daly, Conor Hussey. Midfield, we had Enda Smith and Eddie Nolan in there from St. Bridget's, the first start in the league for him. Half-forward line, Niall Kilroy from Fuerty, Cian McKeown, Boyle and Hubert Darcy. And in the full-forward line, Donny Smith, Kieran Lennon and Cathal Craig. And the subs for Roscommon who came in were Tiger Rourke for Eddie Nolan, Conor Cox for Lennon, Cathal Compton for Cathal Craig, Finbar Craig for Hubert Darcy, and Richard Hughes for Donny Smith. And the referee was Martin McNally from Monaghan, who got some very good plaudits for his performance on the day. So I'm just going to go there first to you, Padraig. Roscommon, a big match, and they got the performance, they got the result, all importantly, that they wanted.
Oh yeah, it was a really good result for Roscommon, because Kildare, it genuinely was a kind of a relegation promotion game, really, and Kildare now are in serious trouble. I still think they'll get out of trouble, but Roscommon now have put themselves in a great position where, probably 2 games out of the last 3 might well be enough to see them being promoted. And it was a very impressive performance by Roscommon, and they just, the one thing I noticed looking at the team there, they're really well backbone by Padraig Pierce's, a club that went well last year, but I was very impressed just looking at the highlights, and not having been there. I was very impressed with David Murray. I thought David Murray was very, very good, and I thought he played a key role in the first goal for Cathal Craig. Just a wonderful kind of dummy hand pass, and just going up the field, and he kind of just as the goalie was coming to him, he just slipped the ball to his left, just made it an easy score. It was nearly such a simple thing that he did that you take it for granted, but just to have the presence of mind to spot that Cathal Craig was just on his left hand side, and it just made the goal look very, very simple. It was a great move, lovely flowing move.
Padraig, I suppose one thing I noticed with David Murray there was he pulled off there was an interception at one stage there. I think it might have been early in the second half, where he stopped a definite goal for Kildare. So as you say, he's had a hand then in a goal and preventing one. And
yeah, Adam Turrell was through on goal, and he managed to get back. And it just he's a very, very strong, fit player. I actually thought, looking at him coming up the field there, I thought he was one of the Dailies. He's a very, very strong unit, and that would have been a disaster for Roscommon to concede a goal at that stage. And you just have to say that they hung in there, and it was a tight game, and Newbridge is a very tight pitch, and Roscommon will take an awful lot from that game, and I think it'll bring them on in leaps and bounds. Even the league aside, it'll be something nice to have in the back of their minds, as they go into championship as well, that they were able to go, because Kildare were going all guns blazing to win that game, and
is Conor under pressure now?
Oh, he's under serious pressure, because not alone have they managed to get 2 points from 4 games, which is a disaster, but now they're facing into a derby match against Laois, and Laois are going really, really well, and as well as that, then he's not from Kildare, and ultimately that'll always be kind of thrown back. Even look at Kevin McStay's time in Roscommon, when things weren't going well, there was lots of people moaning and being a little bit disgruntled about things. So the longer he goes now without a win, the worse things are going to get. And the one thing is you can't flick a switch when it comes to the championship. If they're going badly in the league, they're going to get it very, very hard to pick things up then for the championship. Like if they get relegated, which is unlikely, but if they get relegated, it'll be utter disaster. Like they really will be under serious pressure then to make a Leinster final to avoid being turfed out of the Sam Maguire competition.
Pierce, just there, Roscommon, that was a game they had to win. I suppose we've won 2 kind of titles in the last 3 years in Roscommon. That experience and of winning tough matches, even last year in the championship, beating Galway, Mayo when the chips are down. I suppose players can call on that experience in a tight situation. They know they've been there before. They know they've dealt with a tough situation. That would surely have stood to them in Kildare.
That was a very strong end to the game the other day. Against Kildare, they got 2 good goals, and Kildare really had no response, and you can see that they're quite an experienced outfit. So they have a big game coming up now against Westmeath, because they kind of have to win it. Their final 2 games are away from home. So I mean, if they beat Westmeath, they'll be in a very strong position, albeit with 2 tough games to go against Armagh and Cavan. But it's a very competitive Division 2 this year. You've 4 teams in joint second place, so there'll be a lot of ups and downs between now and the final day.
Conor Cox coming back, Pierce. I mean, he's a huge addition to Roscommon there, and Colin Compton came in as well. But Conor Cox there, it's just even what he brings to the setup in terms of presence and physique and all that.
Absolutely, yeah. They're very good forwards. They took their goals very well the last day, and I was very impressed with their overall scoring threat. And I suppose themselves and Armagh are the strongest team, the strongest set of forward line in the division. So, it'll be very interesting now, the final 3 games. It probably won't be plain sailing, but if they can get a win on Sunday, they'll be well on the way.
Padraig, Anthony Cunningham now, what do you think his thoughts will be heading into these last 3 games? Where will he be targeting getting the points that can get Roscommon promoted? I suppose we were saying earlier on that staying in Division 2 was the ultimate priority, but now you're kind of, I suppose you're in a stage of it now where promotion, it's there for them if they want it, and it's kind of the pressure, I suppose, is off in some respects, but it's a nice pressure now. It's the pressure of wanting to get further, I suppose, as against Kildare, who are in a completely different ball game.
Yeah, no, it is, and like he'll be looking at the Westmeath game is the obvious game because it's in the Hyde. And they need to win that game. Like they have to win that game. It's just, in fairness, nearly most games now they're going to have to win. That would see them climb up to 7 points. Like Cavan have, you'd expect an easy game at home this weekend. They're playing Clare. You'd expect them to win that. Like I think it's conceivable, like for you to get to the last game and Cavan could be promoted at that stage, and that would be good news for Roscommon. But I think the problem might be, like, if Roscommon don't manage to get a win against Armagh, I think they could be out of the equation by the time the last game comes, because Cavan I fancy to win 2 out of 3 of their last games, so that would leave them on 10 points. Look, it's a long way to go.
Sorry, are you seeing a possible situation here if Roscommon were to win the next game? If Armagh just keep winning, basically, you're saying they could.
Well, I suppose you'd be looking at it. You'd be fancying Armagh and Roscommon to win, and you'd fancy the top 3 to win this weekend. And that would put them on 8 points, 7 points, and 7 points. Now, Cavan in their next game, I think, have a winnable game as well. That could see them climb to 12. And then, if Armagh managed to beat Roscommon, that would put them kind of clear. Also, head-to-head is going to come into it. So it will be very important for Roscommon if they finish level with the like of Armagh that they've beaten them, So, but look, and that's looking ahead. I suppose Anthony Cunningham will look to the Westmeath game and try and get their stuff done there and leave themselves still in the hunt. Like losing to Westmeath would really be an uphill battle then to try and catch the top 2. But I'd say if you were to give him this 2 or 3 weeks ago, he'd have taken your hand off. They have momentum behind them now. While Westmeath played well against Armagh, and they would have been delighted with the result, they had put themselves in a position to win it. They were 3 points up in injury time, and they blew it in a way. I know they had come back from a long way. They were 8 points down at one stage, but they would be disappointed with that. And I think Roscommon maybe are bouncing into it in a better fettle maybe than Westmeath, and I think you couldn't but be impressed with Cathal Craig. Like he put in some shift, he hit 1-3, and then to get Conor Cox back on the field, and slowly but surely things are kind of coming together for Roscommon a little bit now. So they're coming into form just at the right time.
How important is Conor Cox there coming back in, Padraig? He's a big personality. He's a big game player.
Yeah, and he kind of lifts the rest of the squad too, and probably takes a little bit of pressure off the other lads who are up front, like the likes of Cian McKeown and Donny Smith get a little bit more room when Conor Cox is the household name there with Roscommon. So when you go out to play a team, they are watching him tighter probably than anybody else. And it just means it frees up that bit of space. And like Donny Smith was a revelation last weekend. Like he hit one off the outside of the boot in the first half. It was a beautiful score. And he just seems to be playing with great confidence. He was a player that was kind of been brought on and off the whole time. He seems to be kind of starting games now, and it seems to be, he seems to be fitting in there in Anthony Cunningham's plans, which is good. But yeah, Conor Cox is vitally important to Roscommon.
Pierce, are you? Is there any? What other teams are you looking at there in Division 2 in terms of being a possible threat to Roscommon? Obviously, the obvious ones Padraig has said there. I suppose Armagh, Cavan.
Yeah, well, Laois can't be discounted either there on 5 points. They're playing Kildare this weekend. After that, they've got Westmeath and Fermanagh. So they'll be in the mix as well. Just looking at it, if Cavan are in a very strong position on the last day, Roscommon will be playing them. Cavan mightn't have anything to play for that day, and Armagh are playing Clare on the final day, and Laois are playing Fermanagh. So Clare and Fermanagh will probably have something to play for. They'll probably be playing for relegation, trying to avoid relegation if they're still in touch at that stage. So it seems to be going to go down to the wire. By the looks of things.
I was just chatting to a very passionate GAA man last night. His name is Gar Malone, and Gar was in Clare on Sunday to see Laois take on Clare, and they did a good win there, even though they made hard work of it. Gar is very interested in the various permutations and so on of the Division 2 campaign and how it could go from here. So we'll just hear from Gar now. Gar, what are you making of the Division 2 campaign so far?
Well, Ronan, it's been a very interesting campaign today, Ronan. I guess looking at the division coming into it, I get everybody reckoned it was going to be tight.
Yeah.
And with the prospect of a second-tier championship football looming if you got relegated, it's kind of, I suppose, it's focused the minds of all the teams in Division 2. And yeah, it's a real battle between all the sides. Results are unbelievably hard to predict so far. As an example to Ronan, I was just looking at it in the first 3 weeks of the division. I think there was not a single away win in the division, and then last week we didn't get a home win. So that's the way the division's been going.
And Gary, your own county, you had a good win away on Sunday last. Did you go to that? I think I'm right. Did you say that to me, that you went to it?
Yeah, I travelled down to Ennis, Ronan, and difficult place to come out of with a result,
Yeah.
They started the game well, seemed comfortable, built up an 8-point lead, and, things were going well. But Clare, they're very well coached by their manager, Collins, and they just, they've great belief and just kept going. There was no surrender and began to eat into the Laois lead. They play this kind of running game where they break through the lines, and eventually Laois were hanging on at the end, and only if it wasn't for some wayward shooting by Clare, they would have probably come away with the points, So as far as Laois goes, Laois have only 3 home games this year, so to get 2 points away from home was really crucial in Laois's bid to stay in the division, which would be kind of Laois's main aim just for this year, would be maintain our Division 2 status,
Gar, I saw a statistic that no team has ever gone from Division 4 up to Division 1 in successive years. You've gone up from Division 3 or from Division 4 to Division 2 in successive years, I think I'm right in saying. Is that right?
That's correct, Ronan. Yeah. I guess Laois fans would have probably felt that Division 4 was not where we should be, and a succession of, poor managerial appointments and, bad luck and bad discipline led to us ending up in Division 4. But John Sugru came in then. He did a wonderful job. We got successive promotions. Lost the Division 3 final to Westmeath and Croke Park last year, but got the promotion nonetheless. And then this year, Micheál Quirk has taken over. He's had to deal with a large amount of absentees this year, particularly the Kingston brothers. But he's brought in some of the younger players from the under-20s, and they've been. I guess they've surprised a lot of people in Laois who might have thought they would struggle this year in the step up to Division 2.
Yeah, and it's amazing, I suppose, Gar. I mean, I'd be a big fan myself of Anthony Cunningham there in Roscommon, and I think we've had some very good managers the last few years, but it's amazing the way a good manager can galvanise a group of players, isn't it? And kind of get them all going the same direction and singing off the same hymn sheet, I suppose. Yeah,
well, that's the thing, Ronan. Modern players are intelligent and they know the game themselves, and they know, I guess they can spot a manager who's out of his depth very quickly
Yeah.
And with the demands that are being placed in inter-county footballers nowadays, they're looking for someone who can, inspire them, unite them, give them a bit of leadership, and I suppose make football fun as well, And Micheál Quirk has certainly done that, and he's also been very good in, handing the jersey to someone who deserves it, regardless of their reputation.
Okay.
So the younger players have been given a chance, and unheralded names have been given a chance, and I think that's very important.
Yeah. And Gar, looking at the table now, you're sitting in 5th position, but you could be in 2nd position. Obviously, you're on the same points as Armagh, Roscommon and Westmeath. How do you see it unfolding from here?
Well, I think
if you look
at the table, Ronan, the teams that are struggling are the teams who are not scoring goals. I think Fermanagh have scored 1 goal to date in the division. They're down on 2 points. Kildare have gone 3 games in a row now without a goal.
Yeah.
They're stuck on 2 points. Whereas Westmeath have been a bit of a surprise, but actually scored 3 goals against Armagh the last day, and still have 2 home games to come, I think, Westmeath. So I wouldn't rule them out of the running, but it's very hard to call. Roscommon seem to have picked up after a slow start. Big derby game with Westmeath this weekend.
Yes.
That game actually, Ronan, is the one that I would say could have a massive bearing on who gets promotion, the Roscommon Westmeath game.
Yeah, and that's our last home game, Gar. And to be honest with you, I think we can win that. I'd be struggling to see how we'd beat Armagh, maybe away in Armagh. But having that said, I think if you beat Westmeath, maybe there's a lot less pressure on you heading off somewhere else. Then would that be? I think
Well, definitely the way the group has gone so far, results haven't gone the way you would predict them on paper so far. I guess an example is Cavan, who took a bit of a hiding up in Armagh, came away to Laois, who had beaten Armagh, and won quite comfortably against Laois. So it's all very well looking at fixtures on paper and saying, we'll pick up 2 here or 2 there, but it's about going out and doing it.
Well, I'm just looking at...
I fancy the winner of Westmeath and Roscommon to get promotion, and if I was pushed, I'd probably stick with Armagh as well at this stage, yeah.
And Cavan as well. I mean, you're looking at them the first day out, people were saying probably going to get relegated, and suddenly they're top of the table.
Yeah, and that's been a remarkable turnaround, because Cavan had a lot of defections as well, and there was pressure on manager Mickey Graham, and I heard of dissent within the camp, and a bad defeat to start the campaign, but they've really turned things around. It's remarkable, really.
Gar,
momentum is crucial, Ronan. If you can get a win or 2 under your belt, confidence is just that kind of thing that in football, that it's hard to put your finger on it, but and it's very fragile. It can come and go so easily, but with a bit of confidence under your belt.
Yeah, I just think there were with Roscommon. I mean, obviously we're missing some key players this year. Some fellas not there for one reason or the other. But there's you still have a backbone in that team. Cathal Craig, Donny Smith. You have the Dailies. You have Tiger Rourke. Well, maybe he's one of the younger players, but you still have a backbone of players there who have won. All of them probably have won 1 kind of championship. A good few of them have won 2 kind of championships, and they'll probably have a good bit of experience. And I just think sometimes in those games, like the Kildare game, where it looked like Kildare were maybe going to win it in the 50th minute, you just had that little bit of cuteness, the likes of Cathal Craig and Niall Daly, and that were just able to up it another maybe 10% when needed. And I think sometimes that just comes with experience, doesn't it?
Experience, exactly. Experience of winning big games, Ronan, which Roscommon have now, you know, and they can call on those reserves when tough times come in games. They can call on the way they, you know, just got over the line away to Mayo last year in the championship and got the job done. And I think Anthony Cunningham is a manager too, who, you know, he's been around the block and, you know, he's seen it all at this stage and just can keep things level in a dressing room. You know, you're not a terrible team after one game. You're not world beaters after another, and it's about maintaining, you know, the right focus and training, keep doing the right things, and normally the rewards will come with that.
And Gar, have you been excited by Galway's resurgence this year? They're kind of playing a real attractive brand of football. It's exciting for football because you've just had so much negativity in recent years and so much emphasis on just stopping the other team, I suppose, for want of a better word.
Yeah, like even though Galway had been making Super 8s and whatnot, you could still say they were a sleeping giant, really, that they were underachieving with the amount of talent at their disposal. And I think it is refreshing to see the kind of football they're playing at the minute. It's just, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but Padraig Joyce seems to have just let them off the leash and got them back to enjoying football, moving the ball fast. And I mean, they're racking up huge scores. I'm really looking forward to the last game of the division when Dublin travelled to Galway. I'm not sure if that game's in Salt Hill or in Tuam. I think the Galway football fraternity would always prefer to see Galway playing in Tuam, really. Yeah. But that's going. If there's something on the line in that game and a place in the league final is still up for grabs, that's promising to be the game of the league to watch out for, I think. Are you
detecting any nervousness in Dublin? Any kind of sense that maybe, you know, that they're not the team they were, or is it very much a case of just going through the motions at the moment until the championship nearly kicks off with them, or what do you make of that?
Well, we've been down this road before when we've said, oh, you know, Dublin, there's cracks in the Dublin armour and so on and so forth, and then come championship time, these cracks seem to disappear. They just have this unbelievable way of getting the job done. Again, though, a lot of these big games they win tend to be at home, Ronan, you know, and I just wonder in those 1-2 point games that Dublin seem to sneak over the line, if they'd been playing away from home in some of those games, you know, how would they have gone? Home advantage has to be worth a couple of points to them, and you know they just got over the line against Donegal the last day, but football needs a change, let's be honest. I know in Leinster certainly the likes of Meath, Kildare and Laois would feel that Dublin have really killed the provincial championship, you know, and the league is where it's at for these counties now.
I know what you mean. And I'm back in the studio just for a final few questions with the lads here. And Padraig, as Gar was saying there, it's like you have a fascinating situation there whereby for the first few rounds nobody could win away from home, and just in the weekend gone by everyone nearly won away from home.
Yeah, they did. It's a great look at it. It's a great division. It really is very entertaining. Whereas Division 1 maybe isn't as entertaining. You know, the football down in Division 2 seems to be very good. I think it might just play into Roscommon's hands that Kildare are in such a bad position right now, because Kildare have yet to play Cavan and Westmeath at home. So, you know, you'd fancy if there's going to be a reaction, it'll surely come in those games, you know, at home. And it just might, you know, Roscommon would need them to take a few points off Westmeath or Cavan if they can, like, you know. So it'd be very difficult to call it at this stage. If you were to ask me to predict something, you know, I would imagine Armagh will be promoted, and apart from that, it's, you know, God knows what'll happen, like, you know. But I'd fancy Roscommon anyway to get their win at the weekend, and that leaves them in a good position facing into the last two games.
And Padraig, your own county are riding high in Division 3. You're looking, you know, you've 3 games left to go. As you say yourself, it's hard to know if you will get promoted, but it's lovely to be in that conversation, just that you're actually talking about the possibilities, and that you're kind of you're obviously hoping it'll happen, but it's just nice to be in that conversation.
Yeah, it is. It's true. I'd say, look at Longford management would have been very happy, I think, to be just in this position where they're kind of safe. But they play Tipperary at home at the weekend. If they win that game, and that's a big if because Tipperary are a good side, but if they win that game, well, then they're in the hunt for promotion. They have 2 games left, albeit difficult games against Derry away and Cork at home. But you never know. Like, you never know. Cork could be promoted at that stage, and it could play into their hands. Things could fall for them, but they might just be lacking, a little bit kind of in strength and depth, maybe to go up to Division 2.
Pierce, as Padraig is saying there, teams will be desperate to ensure you've that added incentive. Gar talked about it there as well, about the fact that teams will be desperate not to be in the bottom 2 divisions. They'll want to be in the top 2 divisions just to make sure they're not playing in that second tier competition.
Yeah, well, it's definitely adding something to the league this year that, as you said, teams will be trying to avoid being in Divisions 3 and 4. Longford, they're looking very good. And
your own county now, things are not looking good in Division 1, but but they played well at the weekend against Kerry, I believe.
Yeah, they did. I heard they did well. I wasn't down at it. There was a few people I know down at it, but I think I'm not sure how taxed Kerry were by Meath, but it's not looking good for Meath now at this stage. There are a few games left, but I mean, I think they've improved slightly as the league has gone on. But it was a sobering spring for Meath in Division 1. So be careful what you wish for in the promotion race in the next few weeks.
And Padraig, just there, looking at Galway. I mean, Roscommon could possibly, I'm sure it all depends how it goes, play Galway this summer. Maybe they won't, maybe they'll never have to worry about that. But I mean, they're looking awesome.
I think Galway seems to be casting a shadow across this Rossie podcast. They seem to get a mention every week, but yeah, they're playing. I might have to eat my words. They're playing. I think I said earlier in the first podcast, there was early days, but they seem to be motoring very, very well. Now, look, I suppose Tyrone got a player or 2 sent off last week, but even at that, Galway were really, really playing fantastic football. Ronan Steed there from Corfin is in the middle of the field. He seems to have made a massive difference to them because he offers a bit of power and he can kick points. The only thing I'd be a bit fearful of him maybe when the ground hardens up a little bit, he could get stuck for a bit of pace in the like of Crow Park. But Pádraig Joyce seems to be working miracles down there. I would add that I wouldn't be surprised. We're talking about permutations and different things. I'd say a possible bet could be that this NFL doesn't get finished the way things are going with viruses and the like. But it'll be interesting to see, what happens on that front too. True,
yeah, and plus, with all the flooding on the Shannon, it's hard to know whether you'll have a big crowd there on Sunday. But
look, we have a prunty pitch in Hyde Park now. You could have biblical like rain, and I think it'll still go ahead. We won't have to be heading to Carrick again. I don't think.
We're heading to Carrick. No. Maybe.
It's a big weekend for the Sheep Stealers, so hopefully they'll put the LA Lakers to the.
I've been told Recline GA Club are making the pitch in Lanesborough available for you if you're struggling. Just come across the bridge and we'll look after you. We'd never see you stuck,
Just want to thank the lads for their contribution to the podcast there. That about wraps it up for the 3rd episode of the Ros4Sam Podcast. Interesting times ahead, exciting times from a Rossie point of view. Willie Hegarty no doubt will be getting very wound up now in the weeks ahead. He was definitely, I was tuning into him there in Newbridge on Sunday, and he was a man. He was happy. He was very happy, and he was very passionate. So thanks a million, lads, and sure we'll chat to you again, okay?
Across the river Shannon, I'm at home among the Rossies. They're the heart and soul of me. I'm back home among the Rossies. They're the heart and soul of me.